Quick reminder to subscribe because these stories get worse. Story 1. I swear I met the dumbest American on Craigslist when I tried selling my old sofa. He messaged me saying he wanted it badly, said it was exactly his aesthetic, whatever that meant, then asked if it came preheated. I asked what he was talking about. He said couches in Europe are warmer because European people store heat in furniture. I told him it was just a normal sofa. He said he needed one that remembers body temperature. I said that wasn't a thing. He told me to stop gatekeeping couch science. Then he asked if I could plug it in for a few hours before he arrived. It didn't even have a plug. He showed up anyway, put his hand on it, frowned, and said, "Yeah, this one's emotionally cold." He left without another word. Story 2. I listed a blender on Craigslist, and an American guy came to buy it, but he insisted on testing it first. Reasonable. Fine. Then he poured orange juice into it without asking, and hit the button. I told him he had to put the lid on. He said no, he needed to see the blender's raw power. The juice launched straight upward like a citrus volcano and rained down on both of us. He looked at the mess, nodded, and said, "Good talk." I asked if he still wanted it. He said yes, but only if I knocked off half the price because it attacked him. I told him he attacked himself. He pointed at the blender like it was a criminal and said, "You should be ashamed of selling something this aggressive." Story 3. I tried selling a dining table and an American woman asked if it was certified to handle American weight. I genuinely didn't know how to respond. I asked what she meant. She said European tables are made for lighter meals with less commitment, and American meals are denser in vibe. I told her it was wood. Wood is wood. She said American wood is spiritually sturdier. I told her I had no spiritual lumber qualifications. She asked if she could stand on it to test it. I said no, she couldn't. She stood on it anyway. The table didn't break, but she announced it felt judged. She didn't buy it because she said the table had an attitude. Story 4. I met a guy who wanted to buy my old laptop, but halfway through the conversation, he said he needed to confirm if it was fully compatible with American electricity. I told him electricity is the same. He said no, American electricity has more horsepower. I asked him where he heard that. He said from a friend who majored in sparks. I showed him the wattage. He said wattage is outdated science. Then he asked if the laptop could handle the raw current of freedom. I told him to get out of my kitchen. Story 5. I listed some shelves, and an American woman showed up and immediately sniffed them. Sniffed. The wood. She closed her eyes like she was trying to read their past lives. Then she said the shelves smelled too foreign. I reminded her they were just shelves. She said she needed American-built furniture because European wood grows up with different values. I asked what values. She said American wood is raised with ambition, and European wood limits itself to holding books. She asked if the shelves could learn American values over time. I told her maybe if she read them patriotic stories. She didn't laugh. She left disappointed. Story 6. I posted an old bicycle for sale, and a man asked if it had the American turning ratio. I said it turned left and right like a normal bicycle. He said American bikes turn better because they're built for freedom of movement. He asked if this one was emotionally capable of handling an American riding style. I asked him what an American riding style was. He said, bold choices. I told him the bike was bold enough. He got on, pedaled twice, fell over, and immediately accused me of selling him European balance. I told him the bike wasn't European. He said it didn't matter. The energy was. Then he limped back to his truck while blaming France. Story 7. An American dude tried buying my gaming chair, but he wanted proof it could support marathon sitting. I asked what he considered a marathon. He said, a normal day. He sat in it, spun around once, and said he could feel the European engineering limiting his potential. I told him it was bought in the US. He said that didn't count because it still had accents. He tapped the armrest and declared it too polite. Then he asked if I had anything more assertive. I offered him a stool. He said stools were too confrontational. I told him to leave my house. Story 8. I sold a pressure cooker, and an American woman demanded to know if it used danger steam or normal steam. I asked what danger steam was. She said American steam is hotter because American water is more enthusiastic during boiling. I told her temperature doesn't depend on patriotism. She said I didn't know that for sure. I told her I absolutely did. She asked if European pressure cookers explode more because they feel trapped. I said no, they work exactly the same. She tapped the lid dramatically, frowned, and whispered, "It's holding secrets." She didn't buy it because she said she sensed emotional tension in the metal. Story 9. I listed an old TV stand, and a guy messaged me saying he'd only buy it if I could guarantee no European ghosts were attached. I told him it was from IKEA. He said that made it worse. He said Scandinavian ghosts are silent but judgmental. I asked him how he expected me to test for ghosts. He said I should gently tap the wood and listen for foreign resentment. I tapped it out of curiosity. The wood made a perfectly normal sound. He gasped like I had summoned ancient spirits. Then he asked if I could perform a ghost eviction ritual. I told him the only ritual available was opening my door and never contacting me again. Story 10. I tried selling a perfectly normal houseplant, and an American buyer asked if it knew English. Not if I spoke English, if the plant did. I asked how language would affect plant care. He said foreign plants get confused by American conversation tones. I told him plants don't understand language. He said they do, they just choose not to respond. He leaned down, whispered hello at the plant, then said it didn't seem friendly. I told him it only had 3 leaves. It wasn't doing personality tests. He refused to buy it because he said it lacked linguistic chemistry. Story 11. I think I met the dumbest American alive when I tried to sell my used car on Craigslist. He showed up, circled the car once, then asked where the steering wheel was. For the passenger. I told him there was only one steering wheel. He said in America they like options, and he wanted a car where he and his friend could take turns steering at the same time for safety. I explained that was not a thing, anywhere, because that would be illegal and also physically insane. He told me I was being closed-minded and that cars in the States sometimes came with an assistant wheel that only controls side to side, not speed. I told him that sounded like a group bicycle nightmare. He then asked if he could install his own second wheel if I knocked the price in half. I told him he could leave for free. Story 12. I listed a brand new mattress that turned out to be cursed, not by spirits, but by the craziest Craigslist American I have ever met. He messaged me asking if the mattress had ever seen trauma. I thought he meant stains or bed bugs, so I told him it was clean. He said no, he meant emotional trauma. He wanted to know if anyone had ever cried on it, argued on it, or violated it with bad vibes. I reminded him it was still wrapped in plastic. He said some people cry near mattresses in warehouses. Then he came to see it and pressed his ear against the plastic like he was listening for secrets. After a full minute, he stood up, looked at me very seriously, and said, "I can hear disappointment in the springs." Then he left without another word, like he had performed a spiritual inspection. Story 13. I once posted my old desk for sale, and an American guy messaged me asking if the desk came with productivity installed. I thought he was joking, so I replied with a laughing emoji. He did not laugh. He sent this long explanation about how his last desk had strong work energy, and he needed to know if mine was calibrated for focus or built for laziness. When he showed up, he stood in front of the desk with his eyes closed and his arms slightly out, breathing like he was doing yoga. Then he said, I am getting procrastination from the left side. That was just a drawer. He asked if I could reboot the desk vibe before he bought it. I told him the price did not include exorcisms. He tried to negotiate a discount on the grounds that the wood felt unmotivated. Story 14. I tried selling a perfectly normal microwave, and an American woman insisted on knowing whether it was safe for American food frequencies. I did not even know how to begin answering that. I asked what she meant. She said foods from the States vibrate faster because of all the preservatives and that some foreign microwaves cannot handle the energy. I explained that microwaves heat water molecules, not passports. She said she once put an American frozen dinner into a European microwave and it came out tired. Then she leaned in and asked, in a whisper, if this microwave would make her food feel judged. I told her the microwave felt nothing and she looked disappointed, like she wanted a racist appliance to blame. Story 15. I listed a perfectly good guitar and got a message from an American man who said he would only buy it if it came pre-loaded with songs. I thought he meant sheet music. No. He meant he believed guitars store songs in the wood and release them more easily if the previous owner had played a lot. I told him I had played on it, sure, but that was not how instruments work. He said American guitars come with factory installed riffs, and he was hoping for the same here. When he came over, he picked it up, strummed one messy chord, frowned, and said, "Yeah, this one is empty inside." I told him that was just his playing. He did not buy it and left saying he would wait for a guitar with more experience encoded. Story 16. I tried giving away a free wardrobe on Craigslist, which was my mistake, because that apparently summoned one of the dumbest Americans I have ever encountered. He arrived late, walked around the wardrobe like it might bite him, and then asked if it had Narnia potential. I laughed, thinking he was being funny. He was not. He said some wardrobes are secret portals, and that Europe has more of them because old magic prefers cold weather. I said it was from a budget furniture store. He knocked on the side panel and put his ear against it. After a moment, he said, very seriously, "I do not hear any whispers." He then asked if I had any other wardrobes with more mystical sound. I told him all I had was this one and my fading patience. Story 17. I put my barely used office chair up for sale, and an American buyer showed up with a tape measure and a notebook. I assumed he was checking the dimensions. No. He measured the chair, then his own thighs, then the distance to my wall, then wrote everything down with intense focus. I finally asked what he was doing. He said he was calculating the spin radius to see if the chair was legally compatible with American Home Office standards. I told him that was not a real thing. He said it was because he saw a guy on the internet mention it once. He then spun himself around in the chair and slammed his elbow lightly on the table. He stood up, narrowed his eyes, and announced, "Yep, this one is not freedom compliant." Then he left. Story 18. I attempted to sell a set of dishes, just plain plates and bowls, and an American woman asked if they were approved for American portion sizes. I asked what on earth that meant. She said European plates are too judgmental and smaller, and she needed ceramic that could handle a proud serving. She came to look at them, stared at one plate, and said it looked passive-aggressive. She put a piece of bread on it as a test, then said the plate was sending her moderation energy. I told her it was just porcelain. She asked if I had anything that whispered second helping. I showed her the biggest plate. She sighed and told me it still felt a bit European in spirit. Story 19. I listed an old printer, and one American guy messaged me saying he needed to know if it could print in patriotic quality. I asked whether he meant color accuracy for flags or something. He said no, he meant the printer should not judge what it prints. I was so confused I had to read his message twice. He said his previous printer would jam whenever he tried printing certain political flyers, and he took that as a sign the printer disagreed with him. He wanted to know if this one was politically neutral. When he came to see it, he actually asked me to print a test page with a slogan on it. It printed fine. He stared at the paper, nodded, and said, "Good. This one respects democracy. I just wanted him out of my house. Story 20. I tried selling a simple floor lamp and ended up in the weirdest Craigslist interaction of my life with an American woman who claimed she could read lighting. She walked in, looked at the lamp, and asked if it had ever seen violence. Before I could ask what that meant, she turned it on, then off, then on again, staring at the bulb like it was confessing something. She said the brightness felt too European, soft and thoughtful, and she needed lighting that was loud and decisive, like back home. I told her she could just buy a stronger bulb. She said no, the base already felt philosophical. Then she placed her hand on the pole, closed her eyes and whispered, "This lamp has opinions." She left without buying it because, in her words, she could not bring a lamp with unresolved emotions into her living room. Story 21. I listed an old vacuum cleaner on Craigslist, and an American guy messaged me asking if it was housebroken. I didn't even know how to begin answering that. He said American vacuums are trained to avoid sucking up cords, curtains, and emotional clutter. Emotional clutter? I told him it was just a normal vacuum. When he came to test it, he sprinkled breadcrumbs on my floor without asking, then turned the vacuum on and shouted, "Show me discipline." The vacuum sucked everything up like a normal machine. He frowned and said its energy felt wild. Then he asked if I could sit it down and talk to it calmly to help it bond with him before purchase. I told him the vacuum wasn't a rescue dog. He said he'd think about it and left the crumbs on my floor as if he were releasing them back into the wild. Story 22. A woman responded to my listing for a perfectly normal blender, but when she arrived, she insisted on interviewing me first. She said she needed to know if I was a trustworthy owner because appliances absorb trauma. I told her the blender had lived a peaceful, uneventful life. She asked if I'd ever blended anything it might find morally confusing. I stared at her for a long moment, trying to figure out how to answer that question without losing my sanity. I finally said I mostly used it for smoothies. She nodded sagely and asked if any of the fruit had emotional baggage. I told her if the blueberries did, they never mentioned it. She examined the blender like it was a rescue animal up for adoption, then said she'd have to meditate on whether its journey aligns with her kitchen energy. Story 23. I tried selling an old coffee table, and an American man showed up wearing sunglasses indoors and talking like a budget detective. He slammed his hand on the table and asked, "How many secrets has this thing heard?" I told him it was a table, not a therapist. He said coffee tables collect stories and he needed one with a clean psychological profile. I asked if he wanted to inspect the wood or check the measurements. He said measurements are meaningless if a table has witnessed betrayal. Then he crouched down, stared at the legs, and whispered, "Tell me what you've seen." I told him the only betrayal happening was him trying to intimidate furniture. He didn't buy it because he said the table looked guilty. Story 24. A guy messaged me asking if I still had the toaster I listed, then immediately followed up by asking if it supports American bread. I said bread is bread. He disagreed. He said American bread is fluffier and more optimistic, and European toasters don't understand that. When he came over, he actually brought a slice of white bread in a Ziploc bag like it was evidence in a trial. He put it in the toaster, pushed the lever down, and stared at it like he expected a revelation. When it popped up perfectly toasted, he took a bite, nodded, and said, "Okay, it gets the job done, but it doesn't believe in the bread." I told him it wasn't built for religion. He asked for a discount because it lacked American enthusiasm. Story 25. I put my TV up for sale, and an American woman asked if it came pre-synced to local humour frequencies. I thought she was joking, so I laughed. She didn't laugh. She said comedy varies by continent, and she needed to know if the TV could translate sarcasm properly. I told her TVs don't translate anything, they just play whatever you put on them. She shook her head like I was tragically uninformed. Then she said her last European TV made American sitcoms feel emotionally distant. She sat on my couch, turned on the TV, watched 10 seconds of static, then declared, "Yep, it's definitely British coded." I told her it wasn't coded in anything. She left saying she needed a TV that understood irony without struggling. Story 26. I tried selling a simple keyboard stand, and an American buyer arrived claiming he was a professional equipment whisperer. He pressed his palm against the metal frame like he was trying to feel its aura. Then he said the stand felt unsure of its purpose. I asked him what that meant. He said stands can suffer identity crises and sometimes want to be shelves instead. I told him it was literally just metal. He told me I was ignoring its emotions. He shook the frame gently, closed his eyes, and whispered, "Tell me your truth." When it obviously said nothing, he sighed and said it was too guarded for him. Then he left me with the mental image of a metal stand needing therapy. Story 27. I listed a basic wooden dresser, and an American guy asked if it had ever witnessed legal activity. I had to reread that message twice. I told him it held socks, not court testimonies. He said some dressers have dark pasts, and he needed one with clean moral alignment. When he came to see it, he pulled each drawer out, sniffed the inside, and nodded like he was decoding evidence. He asked if anything mysterious had ever been stored inside. I told him the most mysterious thing was a missing sock. He said missing socks indicate dimensional glitches and looked at me like I was confessing to a cosmic crime. He didn't buy it because he said the wood felt evasive. Story 28. I put an old air purifier on Craigslist and an American messaged me saying he needed to know if it filtered European lies. I asked him to clarify, and he sent a long message about how air carries cultural influence and some devices are biased. I told him it filtered dust, pollen, and smells, not ideologies. He said he once bought a purifier that made his house smell too philosophical. When he came over, he turned the purifier on, sniffed the air dramatically and said, I'm getting undertones of foreign doubt. I told him he was smelling my cooking. He still refused to buy it because he wanted a purifier that supports American truth values. Story 29. I listed a cheap set of pots and pans, and an American woman demanded to know if they were emotionally heat resistant. I genuinely could not form a response for a few seconds. I asked what emotional heat was. She said some cookware gets overwhelmed by passionate cooking styles and forgets how to conduct warmth evenly. When she came to look at them, she tapped one pot with a spoon and said it sounded insecure. I told her it was metal. She said yes, but some metal is raised wrong. She asked if I could reassure the pot before she bought it. I said I wasn't offering therapy services. She said that was disappointing, but understandable. Story 30. I once listed a perfectly normal couch, and an American man asked if it had ever held a liar. Not a stain, not a pet, a liar. He said couches absorb the truth levels of whoever sits on them, and he wanted one with a clean honesty record. He sat down on the couch, bounced a little, then said, feels like someone sat here with secrets. I told him everyone has secrets. He nodded gravely and said, not me. Then he asked if he could interrogate the couch. Before I could answer, he whispered to it, what did they hide from you? When the couch predictably said nothing, he sighed and said, yeah, this one's been through betrayal. He left without buying it, looking genuinely heartbroken, as if he'd discovered emotional furniture trauma. Make sure you subscribe for more.